sound.
Hi everybody, so today I'll be talking about my wood art, and before I can really start sharing what all this wood art that I create is, I'm going to give you a quick story of the origin of how it began. So I used to have this huge majestic tree in front of my house, and I live in Lexington, Massachusetts, so it's a historic town. And this tree was 200-300 years old, so you could not even put your arms around it because it was so massive with history and the identity of the nation written within its rings. And then one day, tragically, it fell down. And I was spiritually and emotionally connected to this tree. And so I thought, as a chainsaw ripped through its flesh, how can I honor this tree? And so what I did was I co-created a woodworking group. And that meets Sundays, 1 to 5. It's open to everybody. I'll send my contact information in the chat at the end of this, and you can contact me if you're interested. So in any case, I use this tree's wood to create something of great importance. And that goes to my second very quick story. So every 3 years what I do is I go through a rebirth process. And there's a ceremony for that. And actually my rebirth will be on August 8th. So everyone is invited if you want to come to it. And basically what I do is I shave off all of my hair. And then as I'm reborn, I change the resonant frequency of my life. I change something fundamental about who I am in that process. And what that ceremony, a part of it consists of, is my mother, she has a vessel. It's a water ceremony because if you're reborn, you have water breaking and it's a water type event. So she takes this vessel, which is what I'm going to show you, and she pours water on my head as different people come and cut this hair that has been growing for 3 years. Okay, so the first thing I'll show you is this right over here. I'll move back a little bit so you can see it. And the first thing you'll notice is that it represents sort of the entrance into the womb. So it has this sort of vaginal shape to it, but it also sort of has a phallic look to it. So it has sort of both of these dualities mixed into one. What's also interesting about it, the reason why I actually chose this piece of wood was that it starts off with one and then it bifurcates into two pieces. And so that sort of represents the idea that I'm coming along on one part of my journey and now my life is going to change, my destiny is going to shatter, and I need to choose what is my new life going to be like. So that's a symbolism in there. What's also interesting is that I fill this up with water, and that's sort of the amniotic fluid that is I don't know, encompasses a child before it comes out. But what's interesting is that a crack naturally formed at the head of this phallus, and if the water is too high, I can sort of disseminate that water onto the earth. What you also notice is that I've got both bark and this really nice smooth wood over here. This tree is a linden tree actually. That's the wood over here. So in any case, that sort of represents, and if you actually look at it, this is an eye of a beast, and then this is the mouth of this beast over here. And this is, I think a lot about identity, the human identity. Its aspects in animality, but also in technology, because my research looks at human augmentation. So that's what that representation is. And the final sort of symbolism here is from the back, this looks like a bald head and then a mullet. And so, when I do my rebirth cycle, it's actually a 6-year thing. The first 3 years I shave everything off except for the mullet. And then the next 3 years I shave everything off. And that's what the symbolism is here. Now, in order to get the water outside of this vessel, what my mom will do is she'll take this spoon and she'll take the water and then she'll pour it on my head. And the spoon itself is actually kind of symbolic. So, if you look inside it, I don't know if you can see it too well, but let's see. So there are these loops in there. If you look carefully, the grain, there are these circular loops, and those loops represent the cycles of life. And if you look on the opposite side over here, you'll see these loops have this pigment in it, and that represents the cycles of death. And that pigment actually came because fungus invaded the wood and left the pigment there. And fungus is an agent of death. It decomposes and reorganizes for the next generation of life. And in between is this line, which I did not draw. I just excavated and found it there. And that could be the umbilical cord of energy, because life and death are sort of entwined in this saga and dance of energy. And you can sort of see that umbilical cord going down right through the stem of this spoon. Okay, so that's pretty much my sharing session. Thank you for your attention.